go ahead and get started. We have lots of information to cover with you. Lots of changes this year from 7th to 8th grade. Lots of courses that are going to be new that we're going to be offering. Just to introduce myself, my name is Kristen Lorton. I am currently the 5th and 7th grade counselor. We have a wonderful opportunity here on our campus to rotate with our kiddos. So I will move up to 8th grade next year and get to stay with our families. This is Ms. Clement. She is currently 6th and 8th grade counselor, and she'll rotate with her students as well. So it's really good for us because we have the opportunity to get to know our students as they move up through the years. So a couple things to get us started. We are going to go over all this information with your students, or our students, and we meet with them on February 5th, and that's when we're going to begin the registration process with them. We wanted to give you guys some inside information first. So what that's going to look like during our registration, we're going to have all our students complete a draft form. We're going to walk them through the process, how to fill this out, how to pick their classes. As y'all know, and we know too, sometimes they forget to turn things back into us. So what we're going to do is we're going to collect this draft that they fill out that we do all together, and then we're going to give them a packet of information. That information they're going to take home to y'all. Y'all are going to go over that as well. You're going to sign off on the courses that y'all have selected together, and then you're going to return it to us. And at that time, we'll rip out the draft form, and we'll use that. For some reason, if we don't get that official form signed, then we're going to go with the draft form, so at least we have some idea of courses that they would like to take for the next year. If you guys have any questions, you are always welcome to go online to the Keller website, and there's a course catalog online that will give a description of all the elective classes offered, so y'all can have a better idea of what each class will entail. Just a reminder, some of the middle school grading policies, 3 days past the due date, the assignment may become a 0, and again, that's up to teacher discretion as well, but that is a possibility. 10 points off the day that the assignment is late. Students aren't allowed to retake or do retesting any major tests or major assessments. So again, like in 7th grade, if they score below an 80, they can do remediation and retake that test, and there's no extra credit. The STAR, 7th graders, so this year they'll be taking the reading, math, and writing STAR. Next year in 8th grade, they'll take the reading, math, social studies, and science STAR. If a kiddo is taking the algebra class, that's the AP math class as an 8th grader, they will be required to take the 8th grade STAR as well as the algebra EOC end of credit exam, since it is a high school credit course. Please note that for the STAR testing this year, for some reason your child does not meet standards on those STAR tests, they could possibly be moved into a remediation class to get some extra help in those subject areas, and that would be replaced. They would have their advisory period replaced with a remediation class. If that is something that will happen, we'll let you know that we're going to make that change to their schedule. New graduation requirements. Keller, actually it's not Keller, it's the state of Texas, has new graduation requirements. Lots of changes coming our way. If you go on the Keller main webpage, there's an icon that looks just like this. It says I graduate, and it has a plethora of information for y'all to get about the new graduation requirements. We're also, Ms. Clement and I are also hosting a meeting next Tuesday at 6 o'clock that y'all are welcome to come. We'd love to have you. That's going to go over those changes and those new requirements for high school graduation. So again, if you're interested, next Tuesday we'll be having a meeting here on our campus to go over some of that information. Just like in 7th grade and 8th grade, your student will have the opportunity to choose academic or pre-AP courses. You'll have a much better idea about the differences between those after having the opportunity to choose between pre-AP or academic, so it's going to look a lot the same for next year. Just some reminder of some differences between the pre-AP to the academic. Pre-AP courses are preparing them to get a head start on college level work. It's improving their writing and problem solving skills. And it's developing those habits necessary for doing more rigorous coursework. So some of the importance of looking into a pre-AP course. In 5th and 6th grade, if your child was in GT, they had a pull-up program. In 7th and 8th grade, it looks a little bit different. If they're a GT student, they have to at least take one pre-AP course to still have that eligibility of being a GT student. So that's the change between our intermediate and middle school campuses with our gifted and talented program. So some more pre-AP information. It's going to be a lot more in-depth work. It's going to require a lot more effort, attention, and skill. And for your students who have taken pre-AP and have noticed the big change between 6th to 7th and the AP courses, not only does your child need to be academically capable, it's also really important that they have the motivation and the desire to do it, because it is a lot more work. It's a lot more that's going to be expected from them. And so a lot of times our kiddos are really smart and have always done really well in school, but when they're moving to that AP course, it's a lot more work, a lot more expectations, a lot more independence on their part. And so not only do they need that academic ability, they also need the desire to put forth the effort to do well and be successful in those classes. So academic classes is going to be more on grade level. If they need a little bit more guidance from their teachers, an academic course would be an appropriate fit for them. They may need a little bit more monitoring to make sure they're getting done what they need to do. And it's just a more basic on grade level course. So how to decide between pre-AP and academic classes? Looking at their academic strength. Are they in AP Science now and doing really well and really enjoying it? Well, they might want to take it again next year. Maybe they're in AP Math this year and it is a lot harder than they had anticipated. It's a lot more work. They don't have to take it next year. Okay, so looking at how they did this year, were they in Science and it was really easy and they really enjoyed it, they might want to try AP next year. Their commitment to academics. Again, how did they do this year? Did they put forth the effort needed to be successful in their classes? Were you always frustrated because you were trying to get them to do their work, turn in the things they needed to do? Looking at those things, the motivation to achieve that we talked about. Extracurricular activities, that's another big piece of it. Our students have so many things going on, and sometimes it's really hard to juggle all the things that they want to be involved in. And so taking a look at their academic courses as well as the extracurricular things that they're involved in, whether that's sports, whether that's band, whether it's all the things that they like to do outside of school, and being able to balance and juggle all those things that's expected of them. So a good rule of thumb of knowing how to decide between an academic versus an AP course. How is your student doing now? Are they doing really well in a subject? Are they making good grades? Are they in an AP class and doing well? Maybe they're in an AP class and not doing well. So look at how they're doing right now in their academics. Talk with your students' teachers. They have a really good idea of where your students are at, the motivation that they have to get done what they need to do, the academic ability. They're a great resource to use as well to help make that decision. And talk with your students. Are they willing to put forth the effort? And again, that's a huge key piece in having success in a pre-AP course. So, some more important considerations. Pre-AP courses are not appropriate for all students, and that's okay. Many students may be much more successful in an academic course, and students can choose to take as many or as few academic or pre-AP courses as they would like to. So the same process, and we work through this with many of our students, but let's say your student gets into an AP course and decides a couple weeks into it, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work, a lot more than I had anticipated. There is a process that Keller ISD, we have our students go through, and that's to make sure that they have made every effort to be successful. And if they're still struggling, we want to make sure we get these kiddos in the right place. But we also need to make sure that they've done their part to do everything they can to be successful. So if they do get into that pre-AP course and realize, oh my goodness, this is tough, there are going to be some requirements on their part. And that's going to look like they have to make sure that they have no missing assignments. They're not failing because they're not turning in their work. We also need to make sure that they've retested as appropriate. So maybe they didn't do well on a project or assignment. Have they gone in for tutorials? Have they retested to try and show mastery of that skill? That they've attended tutorials regularly, not just meaning they go in here and there, but they're regularly attending tutorials, putting forth that effort needed to be successful, and they're talking with their teachers. So if that happens in the fall, the first 3 weeks of school after they end, then we can look at that process again in the spring. And again, it's going to go back to the student's effort. Did they put forth the effort to be successful? If they did, we do want to make sure we get them in the right class, but we are going to make sure that they've met those expectations first. So the difference between academic math and pre-AP, if your student right now is in academic math, their math guide is going to be, they'll have Math 7 now, they'll take Math 8 as an 8th grader, Algebra 1 or Pre-AP Algebra 1 in 9th grade, Geometry in 10th grade, and then they're going to go through their endorsement math. And if you all would like more information on that, that's what we'll be discussing at our high school graduation meeting we'll have next week. If your student is currently in Pre-AP Math, their path is going to look a little bit different. They will take Pre-AP Algebra as an 8th grader next year, the Geometry as a 9th grader, Algebra 2 as a 10th grader, and then they'll work towards their endorsement math. So it's just going to give them an opportunity to have some more, to be able to take some more math classes if they have started that AP track now. Yes, thank you, good point. Let's say that your student right now is in pre-AP math and they are really struggling. They do not have to take algebra next year. We always recommend, if they haven't gotten those basic concepts, it's always better to go back and to redo than to move on before we start getting high school credits. Because that algebra class is a high school credit. And as we know, that transcript starts at that point. So we want to make sure that our students have those basic concepts before they move on. So again, if they're taking that pre-AP class now and they are struggling, they do not have to take algebra next year. They can go back and take the regular Math 8. Credit by exam. This is going to be for a couple of our students, if interested. There is an opportunity to accelerate through an entire grade. If that's something that's of interest to you, you can talk to Ms. Clement or myself about that. But what they would have to do, if that is something that you're interested in, they would have to test out all 4 subject areas with an 80% or higher. If they would like to try and excel in math, they would take a course. It's called Credit by Exam. They would have to take 2 separate courses and pass both of those with an 80% or higher for us to be able to place them in the next level of math. And that would all have to be done with no prior instruction. And again, that would just be for a few kiddos. If you're at all interested in that, you can talk to Ms. Clement or myself and give you more information.
Okay, so let's start talking for a minute about high school credit courses, because that's a big deal in 8th grade. It's the first time your student has... Okay, so let's start talking for a minute about high school credit courses, because that's a big deal in 8th grade. It's the first time your student has a chance to start their transcript for high school. And as you know, that's your ticket to college and other things. That's what you've got to start worrying about grades. So you guys sitting out here, 7th graders, you can start affecting your high school graduation next year. So those full year courses that are high school credit are algebra and Spanish. That's been that way for years in middle school. But then the semester courses have changed. You guys have probably heard about GTT, which is an engineering type course that exists on campus. It's been a full year course. It's splitting next year into 3 semester courses. And Mr. Bruton, who's right back here, is going to be able to talk to you guys tonight about that if you have engineering type interest. Really neat stuff. But those are all high school credit courses, and then health, which we've had on campus for years. Now, this is a brand new thing in Keller this year. We're offering online courses next year that will give high school credit. Now, the thing is, we don't know a ton about this yet because Keller doesn't know a whole lot about this yet. These courses are being developed. They'll be online programs to where a student will log into a computer and take the course that way. So French and German 1 are offered that way. Principles of Business, Finance, and Marketing, Principles of Health Science, Principles of Arts, AV, Production, and Communication. If you have interest in these courses, we're going to direct you back to that course guide online. We're going to have to do a lot of studying before we present to the students because this information is not really out there for all of us just yet. But that's where you can find out a lot of information about these courses. One thing to keep in mind though, this is a lot of stuff that's being offered in an online format. And we know how tech savvy the kids are, but not everyone is going to be appropriate for an online course. There's going to require a lot of independent motivation, willingness to do things on their own without teacher direction. And so there are going to be some, I guess, prerequisites or criteria that the district is going to determine to help figure out if your student's right or not for the course. So some things that they may have to do before we can enroll them in that class. Okay, so big things to know on high school credit courses. Attendance. To receive credit, you've got to be there 90% of the time. So if your student has not met the 90% attendance rule, they'll have to regain that time and get that credit that way. So that could mean Saturday school, putting in some time on those Friday half days to be able to get credit through the high school. Grading policy will follow the high school grading policy, which will be even more stringent than the middle school one. And then the grades you earn in those courses will follow your student through high school. So that's a big decision to make as a 13, 14-year-old. So just something to keep in mind. All right, on to the fun stuff. We're going to talk about electives for a minute. 8th grade is a big deal because you move from having 2 elective periods in 7th to 3 elective periods in 8th. And the reason that is because your English block goes from 90 minutes to 45 as an 8th grader. So periods can be filled with full year electives or semester electives, or a combination. Okay, so let's talk about PE type courses. Most of you guys fulfilled that PE athletics requirement in 7th grade. Very, very few students were not able to do that this year. So that's out of the way. You don't have to take it again in 8th grade, but you can. You can take athletics, PE, or we have a combination tennis PE course. Athletics, real quick review, no pass, no play. Your grades aren't passing, you can't participate in your sport. You are going to do lots and lots of running. If you were in athletics this year, I'm sure you can attest to that. You're going to practice after school as an 8th grader. So think about your schedule looking a lot different. You'll come to school normal time, you may not leave until 5-ish or so. Tryouts and cuts, and then the boys sports and girls sports are the same as in 7th. PE tennis, participate regardless of your grades. You'll run during the activities, it's in class only. So at the bottom it just says there's going to be a non-competitive tennis class that's going to be semester length only next year. It will be paired with a PE course. So if you take fall tennis, you would take spring PE. If you take spring PE, or anyway, the backwards of what I just said. So it's a semester course. This year it's been a year-long one, so we thought we get a lot more kids in the course that was semester length. You can still be in the tennis team and not be in this class. So this is a beginner skills level course. If you want to play tennis competitively, you can do the tennis team. Year-long electives are out there. The only new ones that we're adding are French 1 online and German 1 online. Journalism yearbook, theater production, art portfolio require things like auditions or applications. What we're going to do is when we go meet with your students, we're going to talk course by course by course and give them specific details on all these. But that's also your job tonight, is to go seek them out and ask questions. Semester electives, look at this list. This is what's really grown in 8th grade. The additions this year, world mythology is brand new this year. Again, something you need to check the course guide on because we don't have a lot of information on it. And then there's 2 rows at the bottom. The GTT courses that I talked about that Mr. Bruton can give you info on, and then the principles of health, etc., that we talked about being online courses. And then exploring careers is a change of a course that we've had called Career Portals. It's similar, but it's going to be a little bit different. Okay, here's our note on electives. We're going to work very hard to get you guys the choices that you like, but we can't guarantee them. Electives are determined based on availability. So when we run out of seats, we're going to have to move to a second elective choice. But we really do work very hard to get top choices for you guys because that's important to us. The exception is that if your student chooses athletics or band, they will get that elective because that requires an extra time or financial commitment. So that's our one guarantee for you guys. Those completed forms that your student will get will be due back February 19th. If not, we'll use that draft form that we completed with them. After that, verification letters go home in the spring. Verification letters you guys got this past year on your student, it confirms that we got in the computer what you want to have as course options. It is not a schedule. It's simply just a chance for you to double check us and make any changes if you changed your mind. So once schedules are passed out in August, we don't make any changes to them because what we've done is we've given students several choices or chances to change their mind during the year. Because they're going to. It's totally normal to change your mind during the course of the spring semester. So we'll do that draft form. You can change as many times as you want before we take it up. Then you'll do that final registration form at home. You'll have about a week and a half, 2 weeks to make changes, think about things, erase, fill it back in and again. Then you'll turn that in. And then we'll send those verification letters out, and you can think about it again and say, oh my goodness, I need to change again, and that's fine. And you'll turn it back into us, and then at that point, we've got to say done, because at that point, Ms. Lorton and I have to start working on schedules so that you'll have one when you come back to join us in August. So after that, you get a schedule in August, and we start the year as 8th graders, and we're not going to make any schedule changes at that time.
This should be very familiar to all of you who have already been in athletics. You will need to fill out the athletic information again and make sure that your physical is up to date. And our wonderful coaches are here tonight if y'all have any questions on that. So what's going to happen next? Lots of electives. On that purple sheet that you got when you came in, it will tell you where you may find all of those teachers. And we know you guys are going to have lots of questions, so they're going to be here to help answer that. So when we're finished here in a minute, we'll have the opportunity to go check out any of the electives, ask questions that you have. Also, our 8th grade teachers are going to be here to answer any questions you might have about curriculum, pre-AP courses, and as well, Ms. Clement and I will be here to answer any questions.